waiting for the clerk. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Today is February 11th, and the Board of Commissioners regular meeting is called to order at 6 p.m. Will Vice Mayor lead us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Father in heaven, give us the power to discard right from wrong and allow our words to be governed thereby and the laws of this land. May cooperation be permitted and be the mutual aim of those who are in attendance tonight, as they all may work for the good of our beloved city. In thy glory, amen.
Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Black,
Present.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Here.
Commissioner Andrews, Commissioner
Here.
Downford.
Present.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion we approve the agenda. No second.
Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Downford,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews.
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is proclamations and presentations. We have no proclamations, but the first presentation is Firefighter of the Year presentation.
Yes, our chief is ill currently, so Clint, our fire inspector, can you come up forward, please? And do you want to speak about it? Okay, go ahead. It's all yours.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Daniels, thanks for allowing us to be up here today. I'd like to start with firefighter paramedic Erick started his career with Madeira Beach Fire Department in the summer of 2016. After a grueling day of written examination, firefighting and medical skills, followed by a physical assessment, which included a swim test and a stair run, Erick scored the highest mark to qualify for his employment with the department. Prior to testing, Erick took the time to drive down to our community from Ocala on several occasions to introduce himself to us and express his interest in future positions. Although an old but proven practice, it is something that seldom occurs by today's job seekers. Erick, however, was not seeking a job. He desired a career. Ubiles is highly praised by his peers for his positive attitude, professionalism, and well-rounded firefighting and EMS skills. Erick trains on a daily basis. He's an excellent clinician with remarkable bedside manner. His patient care is calm, genuine, and compassionate. Ubiles demonstrates evident knowledge on emergency scenes and works diligently on assigned responsibilities. And on top of all those, he's also volunteered to become one of the handlers for Clover, our fire dog. Firefighter Ubiles was selected by his peers for the 2020 Firefighter of the Year. I'd like to add, too, that when Erick first started, him and I got to do something that rarely happens in a career, and him and I were able to deliver a baby, so that was pretty cool. But it gives me great pleasure to announce Erick Ubiles as Firefighter of the Year.
And next up, we have the, yeah, not yet. We have the Sheriff's Deputy of the Year for Madeira Beach, and that's Deputy Sheriff Cory Snyder. Cory. Cory does a lot for us. Both him and Shannon are deputies that are involved in our community policing, and they really outreach within our community, and they go the extra mile. And Cory also does a lot of our background checking and trying to keep up with some of the different trends that are happening. And he also works our weekends, so you'll see him out here on Saturday and Sunday. So it's really a good effort out with our tourism, especially this time of the year. So for that reason and many more, he is our Sheriff's Deputy of the Year. Congratulations.
Presentations are one of my favorite things, so. Well, and the next item is Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber of Commerce Annual Audit. You don't look like Doug.
I don't look like Doug. Yeah, right.
I mean, Doug Izzo.
We divide and conquer in most instances, so wherever he is, I'm not, or vice versa. Thank you for having us this evening. We try to do this once a year for all of the municipalities that the Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber serves. That covers from Terra Verde all the way up to the Sand Key Causeway, and obviously including yourselves, Madeira Beach. I have provided a full packet to you all that really comprises everything that we do that promotes or mentions or advertises something that pertains to Madeira Beach. And that starts with, our website all the way to publications that we print. In a nutshell, we print 45,000 visitors guides, 15,000 maps, and we have you on our site specifically as a designated City of Madeira Beach page with co-linking to your city and resources to everyone that's on the commission, city manager, Parks and Rec, and then all of the events are listed in all of those aspects as well. And then I cannot leave, of course, the fabulous effort that Doug does in addition to everything, but also his newsletter. Many of you may not know that his newsletter that comes out from a governmental update standpoint is strategically created to comprise the central focus of the beaches of Treasure Island, Madeira Beach for your version. And then at the bottom, you can click to view other beach communities, and that is the lake all the way up our beach communities. You also have hard copies of the distributions and print publications that we have in front of you. So I prefer to see if there were any questions. And please know that anyone that's watching can go to tampabaybeaches.com, download any of the publications right there, or view your City of Madeira Beach page. And we are always open to any changes you may have in your descriptions. And that's a large part of why we bring this to you, because many times there are some changes that need to occur. Good? Great. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do for the city. Next on the agenda is public comment. This item is limited to items that are not on the agenda. You have 3 minutes to speak. Does anyone wish to speak?
is that that was at 10:55 at night, January 11th. It was over 500 yards away, and I'm at a 90-degree angle. That's coming from a residence. There's a reason that other communities are going to decibel levels for enforcement of noise, because it can't be subjective, it has to be objective. And some of the other communities, the sheriff's departments, are carrying meters to measure the decimal levels. And I think we need to move in that direction here as well. This continued after 11 o'clock. The band stopped playing, but the music kept on playing and was still heard. I'm 500 yards away at a 90-degree angle from this residence. I find that unacceptable. It should be unacceptable for anybody in the community. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bay Shore Drive.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask you a question. You said that was a resident?
Yes.
It was a resident. How do you know that the band stopped playing at that point?
Because they said they had to quit at 11.
Okay, that's fine.
And then they played music from a stereo and what have you, and it was still heard over 500 yards. That's a third of a mile. Not a quarter of a mile, a third of a mile.
Okay.
It's a long distance.
Did you contact the police?
I did after 11.
Okay.
You know, we don't have anything that in the city that says you can't do it. It's all subjective. It's not objective. It depends on who calls or whatever. We don't have anything in writing that says they can't do that.
I think we do, if I'm not mistaken, but I think we passed it before when, about a year ago, because we were talking about the music coming from the Brown Boxer, as a matter of fact, is where it all started. And it was supposed to be up to the police. If they could hear it and they thought it was loud, they're supposed to go and do whatever they're supposed to do.
Again, that's subjective.
Yes, it is.
That's why the other cities are using meters to determine if they're next door and it's above a certain amount of decibel levels, then they're in violation. It's pretty cut and dried. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak?
Hi, my name is David Green, 13510 First Street East, which is one of the new houses down across from the 7-Eleven. So I'm not a longtime resident. We've been here briefly. We picked this town because we loved the town. We loved a lot of the aspects of it. And what I'd like to do is kind of give you guys the idea for like a 5-year plan or something similar to do something with the pocket parks. We have a lot in the areas, different types, everything from vacant lots to somewhat developed and developed pocket parks. I think they're very unique to this area. I know that you guys are aware of a lot of them. Some do look like vacant lots. Some have a lot of social activity because a lot of people go into them because they're paved. So I'd like to request that we look at some kind of 5-year plan, something to do, I don't know, a pocket park a year. It will require some planning, but they're small. They're not large projects. I think that the city could look at teaming with some of the people around. Certainly benches could be dedicated. They could do paved pathways and have bricks dedicated for whatever, $100, that type of thing. I'd also like to see them, and I know that they will be ADA, to get people in wheelchairs someplace they could go outside so that they would go outside, especially kids that are disabled, to be able to go into these parks by ADA as opposed to just having, you know, a park with grass and one bench sitting in it. I really do think it'll pull the community together. I think it's a great idea to look at. It could be a huge positive for the city in the future, and that's all I have to say. Thanks.
David, that's a great idea. Yes.
John Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road. As a matter of fact, on the pocket parks, I spoke with a business owner here in Madeira Beach today. I've been touching base with a number of them who said he would be glad to get involved in a public-private joint venture for them to be able to donate play equipment for one of our pocket parks. And there are a number of businesses that would like to do that and help the city clean up their pocket parks and get some recreational equipment in there for the kids and families. So hopefully we'll be able to see that get accomplished. Thanks.
Does anybody else wish to speak? Public comment is now closed. Next item is the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I made some last-minute revisions to the Seafood Festival contract, and I've given those to you. Just to let you know, there's a provision that has a 30-day out clause for the city and the Merchants Association, and also there's a provision for us to review the events that were being held, just to make sure that they're all appropriate events.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I've reviewed all of the items under the consent agenda and studied them a good bit, and am prepared to approve the consent agenda as proposed with the changes in the contract.
I'll second.
Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein?
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat?
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges?
Yes.
Mayor Black?
Yes. Next item is
Should bring us to
unfinished business. The first item is Ordinance 2019-14.
I'll read the heading.
Yes.
I'll
Yes,
read the
please.
heading.
Linda?
Ordinance number 2019-14, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Article 4, Special Exception Uses, Section 110-124A, Standards and Requirements, to remove the duplicative quasi-judicial review by the local planning agency, and adding Section 110-125 to provide an appeals process, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this ordinance has been before you. Before, as you can see, this is second reading. What the proposal had been, still is to amend this section of the code to do some basic cleanup to the language, but also to remove a duplicative hearing, one that goes to both the Planning Commission and then to the Special Magistrate for special exceptions. The original proposal at first reading came to you with a difference between the planning staff and the Planning Commission's recommendation. The recommendation of the Planning Commission was not to give up that extra review and hearing. However, you referred it back to them for further discussion and asked that they also send the chair to come address the issue for you. We did go back for a second hearing on the matter. The second time we had a full, or mostly full, commission attendance. The first time it had been heard by only 4 members. The chair wasn't even at that meeting, and so most of the members on the commission now had not heard the item before. And this time, as it went back and we went over it again, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the staff's recommendation, and so we now come forward to you with a joint recommendation for approval, and the chair of the Planning Commission is here to speak to the item.
Hi, Mike Noble, Chairman of the Planning Commission. Linda pretty much wrapped it up. The city staff, she explained it a little better than the last time we reviewed it. We discussed it, voted on it, and like I said, it passed. We recommended for approval. Does anybody have any questions, or? Makes more sense instead of doing it duplicate. Kind of clean it up a little bit.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you. Any discussion among the commission?
No.
Nope. All righty.
So I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance 2019
Public comment.
Okay.
Floor is now open for public comment on this item. Floor is now closed. Go.
I make a motion that we pass ordinance 2019-14, amendment to the Code of Ordinance, Article 4, special exception use and standards and requirements to remove the duplicate quasi-judicial review by the local planning agency and adding section 110-125 to provide an appeals process.
I'll second.
Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews.
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is update on proportionate share development regulations and fees. Linda Portel.
Thank you. As we recently came before you at workshop, and you know that Jerry Murphy with the University of Florida and various agencies within the university has been working on our impact fee study and preparing an analysis to make a recommendation on which portions to proceed with first. And what you have in your packet is an executive summary of the work that's been done before. We presented this to you before and to the Planning Commission. And then it includes a section or attachment 3, task order number 3, which specifically lists the sections of the impact fee ordinance that we would be working on first, namely the identification of public facility and transportation mobility elements, their comprehensive plans to create the levels of service, and then the ordinance preparation and the legal documentation necessary to bring forward to you for final adoption of impact fees in those areas.
Any discussion from the commission? Okay. Floor is open for public comment on this item. Floor is closed.
I did want to ask Linda one question. Linda, what this really tells us is that we're going for, or tell me if I'm right, that we're going for moving forward in our impact, with our impact, et cetera, that we're going for the mobility, is that correct? And the facilities, the mobility being bikes, pathways, and transportation?
Any form of transportation or
okay, any form of transportation, okay. And then the facilities is the parking, the, what are the
These
things?
are the public facilities, issues like drainage and other actual physical services that the city provides.
Okay, okay. And I did have a long time ago, I guess, I did have some concerns about this and wondering if we are doing the best for our city on this, and I've decided that we definitely are, because as we move forward, we will have the opportunity to be able to get into the development and creation of those fees, so.
Yes, no fees will be established until it comes back to you, so you'll have an opportunity to look at the details, determine whether you think the levels of service that are being proposed are appropriate for the community.
Hi, Linda. I've read the memorandum probably 6 times, and every time I come away with something different. What exactly are we approving tonight? What are we voting on?
You're voting to go forward with the next stage of the plan, which is to actually develop the levels of service for those 2 areas.
Okay. And I'm going to play naive here because I don't know if I was, well, I guess I was on the board when it happened. Are there different stop gaps where we get to vote again to see if we're going forward? Is that, and
Yes.
is that was defined at some point?
Oh, yes, you're going to have to, because we're going to have to come back to you with comp plan amendments to establish levels of service for everything that's proposed. So the commission is going to have public hearings on that and decide, whether what's being proposed, the measures that he's proposing.
Oh, yeah, I get
consistent
that
with-
part where if we're going to
Okay.
approve a measure, tonight we're approving going forward.
Right.
Okay, so we're not really approving anything, we're just saying, keep up the good work. Is that what we're approving?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Move forward
Yeah,
with the rest of the work.
Okay, I'm cool with that. I mean, I guess,
Okay.
we approved it initially, so I'm guessing why we're sitting here and doing it again, but I'm good. I'm glad for the update. I just didn't know we had to vote on the update. That's all. Thanks.
I think the key thing was this moves into a different task order, and it's specifically looking at those 2 fees, those involving the mobility aspect and those also dealing with facilities. There are other fees out there, but they're going to take a longer period. So I thought the direction from the commission was we wanted to get moving and have something substantial that we can deal with. So we're moving that next step, and I know it's kind of a stair step, but because of the dollar amounts and all, they will have to come back to you as well. So.
Any more discussion from the board? We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the update on proportionate share development regulations and fees.
I'll second.
Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Mayor, do we have public comment? I may have missed it. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. There may not be any public comment, but just to be sure.
Floor is now open for public comment. I thought I did.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, it's closed. Will the City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthert,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes,
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is contracts and agreements. We have none, and then we're on to new business. And the first item is a public hearing for an alcoholic beverage use. Linda Pertel.
Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone, this is quasi-judicial. So if everyone that is going to testify, if they could please stand and raise their right hand, and then we'll swear you in. So that all the testimony you give is under oath. Clara, would you like to swear them in? Or do you want me to do it? Everyone who is going to speak on this item, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And I think we start with staff first.
Correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, what's one more thing? Ex parte disclosures. If there's any commissioners that have talked to any individual people about this application, you can disclose those conversations or communications at this time. If you don't have any, then just say you don't have any.
I have none.
Okay, you may proceed, Linda.
This is a request for alcoholic beverage establishment for a 2 COP quota license, which is the service of wine and beer. The business is newly opened, and just in this case asking to expand their menu effectively to allow for something that is allowed within the district. This is in the town center, special area plan, which encourages a mix of development and the provision of services, especially oriented towards tourism and support of local business. This is the J Suite is on the back side of the mall over here, off of Madeira Way, as you cross over the other side of Madeira Way. So the location is, as I said, in the town center. It's in an area where alcohol is already sold, and provided there's restaurants, it's not unusual to have as a secondary use within the restaurant. They have dedicated parking throughout the lot around the front and additional parking in the back. So there's no expected impact change for their being able to serve wine and beer with the food. And as I said, this is a commercial development that's been there a long time. We want to fill those, and so the traffic impact that would have been created just by regular use is not much difference, if at all, to having wine and beer on the menu. So the proposed use is compatible with the particular location. We did the 300-foot measurement to ensure that it is not within that range of a church, synagogue, temple, or place of religious worship, public or private schools, or any instruction for minors or youth recreation. One of the criteria you have to look at is whether the use will adversely affect public safety, and it's the staff's recommendation that the addition of wine and beer to that menu will not in any way noticeable or measurable change what's its expected impact to be on public safety. And then finally, they have to show that they have no outstanding fees or penalties owed to the city, and in this case, there are none on the records for the use. So the staff recommends approval based on findings that the proposed use meets all of the criteria for alcoholic beverage establishment.
Excuse me, Linda?
Yes.
I need to ask a question.
Yes.
On this, for the 2 COP, the quota means that they can sell the beverages and let the people walk out with them? Is that what it's saying?
No, the quota is the number, it's based on the number that the state will issue within a district.
Oh, okay.
This is not, they're not asking for packaged distribution. And at any rate, you can't walk down the sidewalk or off the property with open containers in the city.
Okay, so this is strictly just in the
It's service
store itself?
in the store, yes.
Okay, all right.
Would you like to speak?
Hi, Christy Powers, attorney of record for Pete's Sushi and Poke.
Could we ask you to step closer because we're not picking you?
Christy Powers. You got it. Christy Powers, attorney of record for Pete's Sushi and Poke. So we're here to field any questions, comments, or concerns that you might have with the issuance of the T2 COP license for the beer and wine only.
I've heard great things about the restaurant. I can't wait to try it, so those are good with me.
I think we all welcome a new restaurant, and you'll be a good addition.
I think that all 5 areas have been successfully answered and complied with, and I think it'll be a great addition. Welcome to Madeira Beach.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Public comment.
Yes, I know.
I'm sorry.
The floor is now open for public comment on this item. Floor is now closed. Any more discussion from the board? Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the permit ABP 2020-01 for 2 COP quota license with stated intent to sell liquor, beer, and wine by drink or in sealed containers for consumption on premises where sold for Pete's Sushi and Poke, located at 14995 Gulf Boulevard, Suite J.
I'll second.
City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Mayor Black,
Yes. Next item is ordinance 2020-01. Linda Portal.
yes. Ordinance number 2020-01, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Division 3, R2, Low Density Multifamily Residential, Section 110-206, Setback Requirements, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This ordinance was originally proposed by a citizen who has had difficulties figuring out how to align a house on a 40-foot lot. We have a large number of lots that are only 40 feet wide. Some are also shallow, as well as little as 80 feet, some even smaller. And what has happened historically, as I'm sure most of you know, much of the city was built out before the setbacks got put in place. And it had the effect of, when adopting those setbacks, it had the effect of turning big portions of the city into non-conforming areas. In these smaller R2 lots in particular, those neighborhoods, we have at least 80% of all the lots are only 40 feet wide, and they're built all over the lot. And an average of 70% of all lots have nonconformity based on their setbacks. They're into the setback either on one side or the other, or actually sometimes they're in the setbacks all the way around. So to be a little bit more flexible in dealing with these situations where we do have vacant lots or where we're hoping that people will redevelop over time, what we're proposing and the petitioner has asked is that instead of requiring 5 feet and 7 feet as the setbacks on the two sides, that we allow 5 and 5. If 5 is workable on one side, it can be workable on the other. And then what we're suggesting to avoid conflict and also just to make sure there's access along the side of the building and that there's not too much noise close together between houses is that in the case where someone does build with only 5-foot setbacks, that they put their air handler units and other mechanical units in the back of the house. That would actually be necessary anyway because most of the platforms are in landings and things that go with that kind of use are about 3 feet deep, and that would go beyond what's allowed as an encroachment for a 50% encroachment on the side of the house anyway. But we thought it's best to go ahead and state it in the code that that's the intent. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission as well, and they recommended approval.
Linda, all we're doing is giving them an additional 2 feet on the front end. That's it, right?
On one side, yeah. Instead of having 5 on one side and 7 on the other, line them to go 5 and 5.
Okay, so we're giving them additional 2 feet.
Right, yes.
Thank you. Floor is now open for public comment. Floor is closed. Any more discussion from the commission? Do we have a motion?
Well, I think it's important that we do make these small type of changes in our ordinances. I think that like we did, I think in 2018, although it's not a mirror of that, but it was also an ordinance that was designed, created so that more people would want to stay in their residences or change it a little bit. And I think that's very important because I think as people have different needs within their residences and they want to stay in Madeira Beach, that this is a very good option for them. So I definitely agree. I think it was well done.
We've got to do, this is just the first reading, right? We have to do a second reading.
Yes.
Okay.
Any more discussion from the board? We have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to consider ordinance 2020, or to approve ordinance 2020-01, Division 3 of the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, R2 Low Density Multifamily Residential, Section 110-206 on the setback requirements, to amend the side setback requirement for lots of under 50 feet in width from 12-foot total with a minimum of 5 on either side to 10-foot total with a minimum, of 5 on either side at first reading.
I'll second.
City Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes?
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is ordinance 2020-02, amendment to Code of Ordinances. Director Portel.
Ordinance number 2020-02, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Division 3, R2, Low Density Multifamily Residential, Section 110-206, setback requirements, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date.
There's several items being proposed for change in the sign ordinance here. You will remember that we went through an entire rewrite of the sign ordinance a couple years back in response to the Supreme Court's decision on freedom of speech. And in the process, we also tried to do quite a bit of cleanup. There's a couple of spots where the language didn't come out quite as anticipated at some point in the process of changes and amendments. One area that we thought needed to be clarified was the difference between how we were counting pole-mounted or building signs. There was some confusion in there left open. As in section 102-147, it didn't specify which type of signs it was addressing, which caused confusion later and contradictions later on. Also, one very important thing was missing, and that was that we had proposed, and you probably remember me talking about it, having a minimum amount of signage allowed to any storefront. It's especially important to specify that minimum is allowed because we have very narrow storefronts in some cases, only 12 feet wide, and the normal standard for signs proportionate to their linear frontage would end up giving them a square foot sign. So we had proposed a 12-foot square foot minimum, which they were all happy with, but somehow or the other that didn't get carried over in all of the amendments. So we're trying to get that put back in because obviously they need more signage than that to be seen from the road. And then there are just some other cleanups in the language to clarify how things are read. And also there's new statement of purpose put up front to address the environmentally sensitive resources and habitats, because we have people come in who want to do lit signs, and those can conflict with our sea turtle ordinance. You remember we just amended that last year. We'll probably be coming back with more amendments to that over time. But one thing we have to be careful about is that we created a district for the sea turtles. Light is very much a problem for them, and we want to make it clear that signs are included in the light that's being regulated for the sake of environmental resource protection.
Linda, in here you talk about conservation zone. Where on Madeira Beach is a conservation zone?
We had adopted a sea turtle conservation zone.
So just on
It's on the beach, and it actually takes in both sides of Gulf Boulevard because the lights come through the buildings from both sides. And we're going to be continuing to work with the state and with DOT and Duke to talk about not just the commercial signs, but also the amount of light that's created by roadway signs.
I know recently, and it's a little bit off of this, but we passed a thing for the lights, like on the beach side, because of the sea turtles, that would be like a yellow light or something like that.
Right. There are specific standards as to the wavelength of lights, and we've going back over that just recently to make sure we're really as up to date as we need to be, because it used to be just say that as long as it was an amber light it was okay, but that's not necessarily the case. They found that there's still a lot of confusion, and we're losing a lot of the hatchlings.
Off of this here, I'd like to take 1 second and throw this in. I was just on the other coast, and right now what they're requiring is anybody that has like sliding glass doors facing the water where the turtles come in, they have to have turtle glass now. It's a glass also that so lights inside the house don't affect the turtles. Do we need to look at that?
We do.
I know that's not what this is about, but this happened.
We do have that kind of standard for glazing and tinting. Otherwise, if you don't have that, the requirement would be that you would, pull the drapes during season. But we are looking at it all again to make sure that we have the most up-to-date standards.
Thank you.
I have a question for Linda, and this just came to my mind after I've read this several times, and I didn't bring it to your attention, but does this thing have any impact on that advertising vessel, that big boat that travels through our waterways? Because that boat travels parallel to Eleanor's Island, to Eleanor Island, and to the islands, and it's lit. That is lit. So
that's an off-premise sign.
Pardon?
That is an off-premise sign, obviously, because whatever it's advertising is not on the same parcel, that it's not in the right place. And those are not allowed in the city of Madeira Beach. And so what's been happening, from my understanding, and I did talk to the boat owner, and they had asked ahead of time whether they were allowed to do that in and out of the channels. I told them it's not allowed here. So they have been moving along outside the city boundaries mostly, and along the beach outside of city waters. And in those areas I can't regulate or hinder their movement.
Well, he's doing. They are traveling exactly in the same route. I mean, I've not measured it, but and I know that it's sitting in dry dock now. But how can we, if it's not allowed and they are doing it, then how do we? Maybe it's not for this subject, okay? But since you brought it up,
we have to work with the sheriff's office and their marine unit in enforcement of our codes. And, that's something that they have to see happening at the time it's occurring. So that is a little bit difficult to enforce. But that's the method that we use to enforce in the water, because we don't have our own patrol, or we don't have a boat to do code enforcement.
Linda, didn't you just say the majority of his route is not on city property though, right? So he's running through the channels, he's running off the beach, so we don't really control that anyway.
No, correct.
So it doesn't matter what law we put in place, we're not going to stop him from being, right? Okay.
Correct.
So let's leave him be. We got enough things to worry about here than that. And he doesn't run at night though, he runs during the day, right? For the most part.
We've had some complaints about it,
He
but
runs
for
at
the
night?
most part,
Okay.
most part it's been during the day.
Yeah, I know Treasure Island, and I think we're talking about the same, the light up, I know Treasure Island gave him a tough time about putting the Veterans Boat Parade stuff on and things like that, so. Yeah, I mean, if he's not operating on our property, I mean, leave him be. If he starts, then we can address it then. I know that, again, we're off topic, but is everybody done? I'll make a motion.
We're not.
Okay.
Hold that. Floor is open for public comment now. Floor is closed. Any more discussion from the board? Go, Doug.
There we go. I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2020-02, a proposed amendment to the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, Signs, 102.1, 102.5, 102.7, 147, 102.191. First reading.
I'll second the motion.
Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is ordinance 2020-03. City Clerk?
Ordinance number 2020-03, an ordinance of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending City of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Division 2, enforcement by special magistrate, adding Section 2-386, modification of orders by special magistrate, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an immediate effective date. First reading.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, this item you did discuss in workshop. The purpose in this proposed amendment is to refer amendments or modification requests for reduction of liens that were established and imposed by the magistrate back to the magistrate for hearing. And the purpose in that is to keep it in a judiciary mode. It comes out of a quasi-judicial hearing. And up until this point, what has happened is people have come back to the City Commission to hear modification requests, which puts it into a different political and more legislative setting. So what's proposed is that we keep this consistent, send it back to the magistrate, and let them bring about more information effectively if they think that a modification is requested.
Discussion from the commission?
Long time in coming. I'm glad that this is addressed now, and that hopefully we can put it to bed and make the special magistrate accountable for all of that and not have it in the hands of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you for doing that.
Floor is now open for public comment on this item. Floor is closed. Any more discussion?
No, I'd be glad to make a motion to pass ordinance 2020-03, amending the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances, Article 7, Code Enforcement, Division 2, enforcement by special magistrate, by adding Section 2-386, modification of orders by special magistrate, on the first reading.
I'll second.
Will City Clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Weinstein,
Yes.
Commissioner Douthat,
Yes.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hodges,
Yes.
Mayor Black.
Yes. Next item is staff reports, transfer city investment funds from Synovus Bank to Hancock Bank. Director Pierce.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, in a previous, or actually the other previous quarterly investment reports that I shared with the board, mentioned that we were hoping to get a better investment yield when our Florida Community Bank that we've been investing with in years merged with Synovus Bank last year. The interest rate has been hovering consistently at 1.40%. And the purpose today is just to give you, the board, an option or the opportunity, and I just wanted to do my due diligence to present this to you, that if the funds within Synovus Bank, which is $5.8 million, if we transferred that to our Hancock investment account, where we are earning an interest rate fixed at 2.43% because of the 3-year agreement that we did with Hancock to do our servicing our banking needs. This move would generate an additional $55,000 annually, or $125,000 over the next 3 years during our banking relationship with Hancock. So it's just an option, and because of the amount, I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention how we may want to proceed. I probably would not be doing my due diligence if I did not bring this to your attention and the opportunity that goes with it.
I had asked a couple questions, Walt, and I didn't know if you had the time to prepare them because it was just very recently. But for Hancock Bank, could you distribute to us, just so that it may be a point of consideration, what they're about in Hancock Bank, okay?
About their what?
About Hancock Bank. I've never really seen any information from them. I know I could probably Google it, but I'm interested in what they're, I mean, I know that our design is certainly not to put all eggs in one basket, but if they do offer, you know, something that's rather, that's very good for the city, that could be very good for the city, I'd want to know more about Hancock Bank, their own portfolios, what their management's like, what their global.
They are a small bank. My predecessor basically put out an RFP for banking services when he was here, and they pretty much met all the needs of the criteria at the time. And the only negative thing was there wasn't a local branch close by. There is one on Derry Road. And what they did is they provided free of charge armored car service. And we've since canceled that because with canceling our parking machines going coinless, there is less a need for the armored car service. So we canceled that, actually saving money because of that. But they invest in very conservative investments, and governmental type investments, and high credit municipal funds. They're a small bank that's recently started off small, but they're gaining strength in Florida. They just opened up a branch in Bradenton, Florida. So they are expanding, but they are very strong in our ratings. And so I think the selection of that bank that we did prior to my coming here was a good move. And to have the opportunity, they serviced our needs in an excellent way for our operating accounts, checking accounts. We've never really had a problem. We've got a positive pay service with them that's really been beneficial late, because we've had some issues that have that feature has really helped us out with credit card or check fraud and any things of that nature. So they're very strong bank, small, but they're strong, and they've really served our services for the city. By the way, I'd like to just say that both these banks have the same type of insurance. Both are FDIC insured, which protects the first $200,000 of the city's deposits, and then the qualified public depository would kick in. Both of them are qualified public depositories.
Which is where the state picks up
Yes.
the entire, okay.
Right.
Because I was just curious how they could be that aggressive, I guess, and what's the other one? Synovus.
Well, when I called the investment banker with Synovus, he is a former finance director. He couldn't believe it either. I did indicate to him that it's basically because we locked in a 3-year agreement with our banking services. We have the luxury of having $8 to $9 million in Hancock, and Hancock did not want to lose us as a customer. They have indicated to us that they no longer offer this 2.43% because they're basically not making any money on it. The investment banker with Synovus, who was an ex-finance director, basically said that, Walt, I cannot blame you. I too, Commissioner, have the same feeling, and I'm like this personally. I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. But what we're facing now with inverted yield curves and the way the economy, the money that you can make, this is the type of opportunity that presents itself.
Walt, I got a couple of questions. Very generic here. What type of investment funds is the money currently in? Is it just in
We have,
CD? Is it in mutual funds? What are we talking about here?
Hancock is basically, they invest our public funds very conservative and government guaranteed.
So in bonds and things along there. What is our money currently in that we're moving it from?
Basically, the same thing.
So
Both banks,
it's a mixture of things.
right.
Okay.
Both
okay.
banks invest in the same type of securities. In fact, I had that conversation with the investment banker with Synovus, that they basically invest in the same vehicles.
Okay.
Very secure.
No, of course. So you'd say in the city's in the first of a 3-year banking agreement, but is this the second 3-year banking agreement? Because you said Vince signed this up.
Within the first year of the banking agreement. I went to the board last year, prior to October. I think it was in the May timeframe, and I said, I presented this to the board for approval, that if we approve this now, and a 3-year agreement now, we could lock in this rate that Hancock had offered. The board did approve that.
Okay.
I think there were 2 agreements, 2 3-year agreements. There was the one when Vince was here, and then this was the second one that Walt just mentioned.
Yeah, that's what I
the
just
one that
asked.
Vince-
This is the second of the,
Right.
okay, so there was one agreement with the RFP, which Vince, because Vince has been gone 3 years. I just did the math. That was easy. All right, and is there any, what kind of withdrawal penalty are we going to pay with the Synovus to move our money over to Hancock?
I've been told by him that there's no penalty, and also,
There's no penalty to break a 3-year agreement?
we don't have a 3-year agreement with Synovus.
Oh, okay, I got it. We're good with the 3-year agreement. So whatever we have with Synovus is in something we can move without any penalty at all?
No, without any penalty at all.
Okay.
I just need to give them some time. It is a large amount of money, and again, that's why we're bringing it to the board's attention. Just give them about a week to make the transfer take place. And, and this is something that for the 2021 budget, we could take this extra 55,000 and put it somewhere. It'd be included in revenue.
For the current year, we'd really only see 25,000 until the new fiscal.
If the board made the decision tonight and concurred with this, this transaction would probably take place in March, and between March and September, we would make probably 25,000 by doing this move, and 55 annually. So over the course of the remaining 3-year agreement, we would make $125,000.
This is a staff report, but you're asking, but we can't vote on this.
Information.
I didn't personally, I just would like to see more on what portfolio we're leaving to what portfolio we're going into. I mean, that's a fixed interest rate. I mean, on paper, Walt, it looks great. I get a little nervous at the whole that's a whole percentage point that we're getting, so I don't know. Okay.
With your blessing, I can have this added to the workshop agenda, if that's okay.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Pierce.
Madam Clerk, will you make that note, please? Yes. Thank you.
Next, we have reports and correspondence. Anything from the City Commission?
Well, I just want to comment that the listening tour will be on this Thursday from 4 to 6 at the library in the conference room. And everybody's invited to attend once again on these monthly meetings that I have. There will be no political platforms, no campaign talk, nothing like that. It'll just be the city manager listens and facilitates, and we listen to all the individuals who want to get up and say something. Thank you.
Commissioner, I have an issue with you conducting a city-run meeting during an election. That's not appropriate. not the city advertising a meeting for you, regardless of what you're going to be discussing, is wrong during this time of the year. That's my personal opinion. I think we're blurring the lines. You want to have a meeting on your own, that's fine. You want to rent out a room, terrific. You can't have Kurt send out a press release to say, come meet Debbie Weinstein and talk about whatever issues you want to talk about. How could it not be political? You're in a political chair. I think that's completely wrong and completely against anything that we stand for here. I think that's, no.
Well, you're certainly welcome to come, Commissioner, and because it is noticed properly, and you are welcome to come and listen to exactly what we do talk about.
Okay, that's completely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is during this time of year, I don't care if you do it the rest of the year, that's great. During the time when you are on a ballot, for the city to sponsor something and to advertise an event for you is completely wrong, and it's completely against every rule that we have. Completely. It's not even, I mean, there's not even a wiggle room there. It doesn't matter what you talk about. The city should not be sponsoring a meeting that you are hosting. We should not have our public or information officer sending out a press release to announce that you're having a meeting. If we do that for you, we got to do it for every other candidate in the room.
Sir, it is definitely not a candidate thing. It was done, and it was, I asked the library, gosh, I think it was back before Thanksgiving, to make sure that we have this available to our citizens. And I disagree with your thought, and I intend to move along with it.
Okay, does anybody else have any feelings on this? I'll be honest with you. This is completely inappropriate. Completely inappropriate. Unless you're giving everybody else, everybody should be on the same playing field when they go into this. The city should not be sponsoring or hosting or advertising or doing anything that supports any candidate over another candidate. It makes no sense. You have to have an even playing field. That's what democracy is all about. That is wrong, and everybody on this board knows it's wrong. Knows it's wrong. I completely disagree with this. And if we send out a press release on this, there's going to be issues because that does not, you can't do it. You can't do it. Ralph, am I right?
I have not seen the ad or been informed of it at all, so I'd have to take a look at it.
Okay, but there should be no city involvement with any person that is currently on a ballot. We have 4 weeks, 5 weeks until an election, and you want to gain an unfair advantage by being able to promote yourself? No, that's completely wrong. Completely wrong.
Well, I don't do
Commissioner
that.
Weinstein, you're completely wrong. Whatever you do during this thing, you're completely. Your content of your meeting, you see, every time I speak, you sit here and you don't even listen to what I'm saying. I have no problem with whatever content you want to discuss. My problem is the city cannot be involved. If you want to hold a meeting on your own, terrific. The city cannot be involved. The city manager should not be there. Should not be there. You're running for an office. Run for an office. You don't need any help. Completely inappropriate.
Any more reports or correspondence from the commission? City attorney, any reports?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
City manager.
I've got a few items I just wanted to go over. First off, I have Dan Hart here from CPWG. Our engineers have been in charge of the Gulf Boulevard project. Dan, can you step up and give a quick update, please, on where we stand with the undergrounding and the Gulf Boulevard paving?
Well, thank you, City Manager Daniels and Commissioner.
You have to speak into the mic, though.
Can you hear me now? All right, good deal. The Gulf Boulevard resurfacing project is winding down finally. Appreciate everybody's, including the people in the room's patience as we were working through some issues and some delays and processes that were going on out there. But I think on early part of next week, we were supposed to put the finishing touches on. Of course, there was an accident right at that location where we had just paved in front of the 7-Eleven at 150th at Tom Stewart. That accident had damaged our freshly paved road, so that created some additional delays just as we were wrapping things up. So we had to go back out there the other day and repave it, and Monday we're going to restripe it, and that should be about the very end of our inconvenience to your city. So appreciate the patience, and the city's been fantastic. So that will be, there's about another 2 or 3 week administrative process that I'll need to do to get the job officially closed, but it'll be the end of any lane closures and that kind of stuff. So everything else is now complete, inspected, and approved, other than that little stretch, which has been going on now for over a year. So that's basically the update there.
The undergrounding?
The undergrounding, the penny 3 money that was provided to the city of Madeira Beach has effectively been used to underground the utilities, or what we, CPWG, did largely was install the underground conduits for along Madeira Beach. And now subsequent to that, those conduits are there, that process is done. Duke is working, Duke is the major, but Duke, Frontier, and Spectrum are all out there working up and down the beaches to underground their existing utilities. The Duke forces are currently working their way south, as I understand it. I do not speak for Duke, but they're working their way south, and they're in the Reddingtons currently working their way south to underground their utilities. So what they'll do is come in, and the conduits we've installed underground, they'll run new lines, they'll energize the system, and then come back, and once it's all working in order, they'll pull down the above-ground utilities that are there currently. And then there is a handful of locations that will need to come back in after Duke is done and do some restoration, some sidewalk repairs, replant some shrubs that are damaged from the construction and that kind of item. But effectively done on our end, and we're waiting for the utility companies to come and wrap that up, and then we'll be back and fix up those areas that have been damaged. We just don't want to fix them now to have Duke turn around or Spectrum come around and end up fixing them 3 times in order to get it done. So we're anxiously awaiting them to get finished. And I guess back to the resurfacing project, I know it's been a subject of some concern. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, those signs that people are up, the construction signs and the end roadwork signs will officially end and be back at Bob's Barricades Yard. So,
Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions?
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. Also on the waterway annexation, I know we'll have an update when we talk at the workshop meeting as to the enforcement and so forth. The next phase is sending an official letter up to Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FWC, and the Army Corps of Engineers. They had given us an email back saying that they were okay with it. So unless there's an objection from the commission, I'm going to go ahead and proceed with sending those letters out, and also one to the county to let them know our intention to annex the waterway, and hopefully they'll agree to that, and then we can come back here and you all can agree to it, and we can move forward with the next step, which I'll get with our attorney and deal with that. The fireworks, I've been working on trying to do some fundraising for the fireworks and or a laser light show. We're proposing it to still be over at the elementary school. Again, I just don't want to have any objections. If you hear that I'm out looking for funds, I just wanted to let you all know that was one of the charges that you gave me during the budget period to see what money I could raise on the private side to fund our fireworks event. So I'll be doing that and hopefully have a proposal back for you at the next commission meeting. And one last item was the situation with the article that was written in reference to the forensic investigation that was conducted, obviously previous to me being here. I went back and actually after the last meeting, Wayne Ayers, the reporter from the Beach Beacon, had actually emailed me and supplied me with a copy of the original article that was written, and he wanted to validate the fact that that is the information. And basically the executive summary page of the forensic investigation was what he had quoted, and I guess what maybe was lost in translation was the fact that the, and I'll just read this sentence out of here, based upon the investigative procedures performed, it appears the city's limited oversight of the marina may have resulted in lost revenue or overbilled expenditures of $550,685.17 during February 1st, 2015 through August 1st, 2018. And that's, in essence, that's what was reported, was right out of the forensic investigation summary that I assume was in the public domain back when that article was written.
Bob, maybe I don't know if you read Wayne's article, so let's start there. What I was saying, okay, it was that, let me just read it here. The report shows an estimate total. What I said at the article and what I was quoted as, I would like a retraction from this city to the local papers that this marina did not lose $550,000. Okay? You said you'd look into that. The retraction wasn't coming from Wayne Ayers. The retraction was coming from the city. Did you read Kurt's press release?
I read the press release, and I don't have it here in front of me. But,
okay. That's, so, and no disrespect, I didn't ask Wayne Ayers to do a retraction. It's quoted in the paper. I asked the city to write a retraction based on the truth and the facts. Okay? That's what I asked for. Okay?
Okay.
I will quote in Mr. Presser's article. The report shows estimated marina losses totaling more than $550,000. That's it. There's no, it was pretending on this, pretending on that. It does allude to the tone at the top, which, and then he offered, and I don't care what anybody thinks about Shane Crawford at the moment, it mentioned his name, which violated his agreement with the city. Okay? These are the things I want, and then we praised of the cost, approximately $27,000 has been recouped from an overpayment. We were praising the auditors for finding it something that we double paid. What I'd like you to do, Bob, if you would, Wayne's article doesn't vindicate anybody. It doesn't clear anybody. It doesn't really do anything, except for it says that Wayne reported it correctly. He reported it correctly based on an audit, which nobody can verify the facts of the audit. He's basing it on the audit. And I had the conversation with Wayne as well. I said, hey, can you verify that these are all facts that are in the audit? No, but what we can verify is the statement that the marina lost $550,000 is a flat out lie. And this is the last thing that our public saw. That's the last thing our public saw. So I just ask you as a favor, go back to the drawing board, read his statement. I would like a retraction from the city about the marina audit. I don't care what Wayne and the Beacon does. I don't care what Sheila and the Times does. I want our city to give our citizens the correct information. We shouldn't be lying to them. We shouldn't be walking around saying this was the best $50,000 the city ever spent. People using it as a campaign slogan. No, I want a retraction that states the truth so everybody can understand it correctly. That's all. This does not understand it. This does not clarify what happened. So please go back and read this, and we can have another discussion about it, because if we can throw it on the workshop, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
I guess I don't understand what Doug's saying. If the audit comes back and says we lost X amount of dollars, how is the city supposed to say, no, the audit was completely wrong?
John, we didn't.
Let me finish. Hold
okay.
on. I'm saying that, asking him to turn around and say, oh, the audit is incorrect and, none of this is true or anything like that. I don't see how we can do that in all fairness. I don't.
Okay. The finance director can show you a report showing that the marina did not lose $550,000. That doesn't say potential revenue. That doesn't say anything. It's a straight out comment from our people. This is internal. We did this. It's internal, regardless of what the audit said. If he wrote out that the audit, okay, it was potential lost revenue, it was this, it was that, what it says is that we lost $550,000. It gave the illusion that somebody either stole it, it was misplaced, or we just flat out lost the money. That's not what we should be telling people. We need to, and if we don't want to discuss it, that's great. But what you're telling the citizens is, you know what? Our agenda is more important than the truth. Okay, the truth needs to come out. We had a guy that worked here for 17 years get his reputation and his career ruined. Okay, based on that report, and the report is a flat out lie. Flat out lie.
Go ahead, Bob, you going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I thought what you're getting at was the press release that was released at the time. The report is exactly as I read it. And again, I wasn't here during that time frame, but you're saying the report's a lie. So
I haven't changed. Read the newspaper. I haven't changed my stance at all. My stance is that the city needs to retract its statement.
The press release.
The press release. Okay.
That's
what we
I
need to
understood,
retract.
So
okay.
I just wanted to make sure I had
Because now it's become a little bit more apparent that this audit really wasn't everything it was meant to be. The audit turned in from a fraud audit in the beginning, and then when nobody found fraud, we had to go back and find something else to do. So we went and dug around the marina until we could find 25 things, like we had one dipstick instead of two dipsticks, and put it on a report. Guys, that's crazy, okay? And look what we're seeing now. You lose Marchicano, look what we're seeing now, okay? I saw the first quarter numbers for 2020. Wait till you see what the revenues are going to look like next year. Wow. But I would like to discuss this. I just want to get, you know what, we can go through this thing. I think a lot of people are confused because they don't know what the press release looks like. Let's everybody get a copy of the press release. We'll go through it. It ain't very long. Let's go through it. If we find a retraction is needed at the end, terrific. If we don't, I can live with that. But I don't want to go, it can't be not discussed. Okay, because the people deserve the truth on this. I still get people this day that are telling me about this. Okay, saying, "Oh man, that guy stole $550,000." That's what that alluded to, and you saw it. And honestly, if you look at the headlines, you saw this. You saw it say the marina lost $550,000. Those are the headlines that the Tampa Bay Times ran. Now we can't control what the paper runs, but we can control what comes out of here. That's what we can control. And if we can't give the people the truth, or we're just trying to be vindictive, and trying to create our own narratives, no, that's not what we're supposed to be doing up here. Absolutely not.
Doug, I just think you're reading more into it than anybody else. No, I'm just saying you're reading more into it because you keep saying that, we're saying that people are stealing money. That audit never said anybody stole any money.
No, but we investigated that, John. We investigated that. That was the initial part of the audit. We investigated fraud. We didn't find fraud, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we got to find something to report." And they went back and did it.
Where does it say in the fraud in the report about the fraud?
Where? John, you were on the board and approved this. You should know what this was about. Stop it.
Keep your voices down.
You were on the board. You knew what was going on. You knew what was going on. It was a fraud investigation.
Before we leave, City Clerk, do you have anything? That's the last item on the agenda.
I do. I want to remind everybody that we have an election on March the 17th. And again, it's the swearing-in ceremony will be March the 31st on Tuesday. But we're hoping that that gets changed at least a week earlier. I'm staying on top of that, and I'll be attending the canvassing board meetings. And the elections office is hoping to that they can certify the final election results in time for us to do it before the 31st. If not, it'll be the 31st on Tuesday.
Wow. Meeting is adjourned at 7:23.